So this deep dive is going to be interesting. It's one of those stories, that really makes you wonder what's actually going on, what's happening behind the scenes. You sent over some information about this guy, Marvin Herbert, and, well, he's a little controversial, to say the least. Apparently, he's mixed up in this, well, it's a pretty serious crime. We're going off of a YouTube video here from a channel called Scouse Sit-Off. It's run by this guy, Darren. And just so you know, Scouse, it usually means someone's from Liverpool, England. Just gives you a little background there. Anyway, so in his video, he's alleging that this Herbert character was involved with, get this, a group of people who are responsible for murdering 2 police officers. Yeah, I know, right? But here's the kicker. He's never been charged with anything. Not only that, he's been seen hanging out with high-ranking police officers since the whole thing went down. It's a lot to unpack, that's for sure. And honestly, I gotta say, I'm really curious to dig into this with you, see if we can make any sense of it all. What do you think?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, you're spot on about how strange it all seems. Those are some serious accusations. And to have them just disappear like that with no consequences, it's definitely unusual. We're talking about murder here, and not just anyone, but police officers. That kind of crime really shakes a community, really gets at people's sense of safety. And then you mentioned organized crime. That adds a whole other level to it.
It's like, how deep does this rabbit hole go?
Exactly. It suggests that this wasn't just some random act, This was planned, coordinated, someone had power, influence. It all points to something bigger, something more complex than it might seem at first glance.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm definitely interested to see where this goes.
Okay, so, in his video, he doesn't just say Herbert was passively involved either. He's saying that Herbert was actually with the guy who pulled the trigger, and not just in passing in the days leading up to the murders. And it gets worse. He's also saying Herbert helped the guy get away after, but it's like, what really throws me for a loop is this. The police arrested 11 people for these murders. 11. And G is claiming that every single one of them was charged and jailed except for Herbert.
Hold on, wait, really? He was just let go?
That's what Guy says. And then, get this, less than 2 years later, there are photos of Herbert with police officers. Like, they're hanging out. There's even one where he's hugging a cop on a stage. I mean, come on. What is going on here?
I have to admit, the first time I saw all of this, I was floored. You just don't see this every day. Someone who's allegedly involved in something this serious, walking free, no problem. And not only that, he's palling around with the cops. Doesn't really add up.
You've got that right. It's completely baffling. You've got these incredibly serious allegations on one side, and then this total lack of any repercussions on the other. And the photos, don't even get me started on the photos. It's like, what's the connection there? It just doesn't make sense.
Exactly. There's got to be more to the story, right? Something's not adding up.
No kidding. I mean, there has to be an explanation. The question is, what is it? So we're left trying to figure this whole thing out. It's like, on one hand, we've got these serious accusations against Herbert. But on the other, he's not in hiding or anything. He's being seen with top cops.
Yeah.
It's a real head-scratcher.
You're not wrong about that. It's a strange one, for sure.
And what about these photos, the ones with him and the police? I mean, were these just taken at some public thing where anyone could have snapped a pic? Or was there more to it? Like they were trying to keep it quiet. It makes you wonder about the whole context of those photos. Like, what do they actually tell us about Herbert and, well, the police? What's their relationship, really?
You've hit on something important there. The context of those photos, it's crucial. It could be huge. Were they taken at some official thing? Maybe there's an investigation going on, something we don't know about. Or maybe it was nothing, just a casual behind-the-scenes kind of thing. And then there's how those photos got out. Did someone leak them on purpose? Maybe to send a message? Or was it just, normal how these things usually get out? It's hard to say.
So, like, we're missing pieces of the story, We only have fragments. What do you make of it all? Is there a way to explain both those accusations and the fact that Herbert's seemingly untouchable connected?
Well, there are a few things that could be going on here. A few possibilities. The simplest explanation, and maybe the most likely, is that Herbert's innocent. Maybe he was wrongly identified or in the wrong place at the wrong time. It happens. It's easy to forget when you hear about a case like this that just being investigated, even without being charged, can ruin someone's life, their reputation, relationships, everything. It can be really tough to come back from.
That's so true. You get caught up in the story, the drama of it all, and it's easy to forget that there are real people at the center of it. But if Herbert is innocent, why were these accusations made in the first place? It doesn't make sense.
Right. Was it a case of mistaken identity, like I said? Were there other motives involved? Did someone want to hurt him, frame him? These are all possibilities we have to consider.
And then there's the flip side. What if he's not innocent? What if he made a deal, with the police? Maybe he had information about something else, something bigger, and they let him walk in exchange.
The informant theory.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely a possibility. It wouldn't be the first time someone facing serious charges cooperated with law enforcement to get a lighter sentence or even immunity.
But come on, wouldn't that be risky? I mean, we're talking about the murder of police officers. Wouldn't his life be in danger if he was an informant?
Absolutely. Being an informant is incredibly dangerous, especially in a case like this. They face huge risks. Retaliation for the people they're informing on, constant fear for their safety and the safety of their family. It's a high-stakes game for sure.
So if Herbert was an informant, they must have thought what he had was really important, important enough to risk his life.
Exactly. He would have to have something they really, really needed. Yeah. Information, connections, something critical to their case or to other investigations. It really makes you think about the kind of world we're dealing with here. The alliances, the betrayals, the line between right and wrong, it gets blurry.
It makes you think about justice, too. Is it really about finding the truth, holding everyone accountable, or are there situations where compromises are made, deals are struck, even if it means some people get away with something?
Those are big questions, questions people have been debating for a long, long time. Using informants, it's a tricky thing. It's often necessary to take down criminal organizations to keep people safe, but it definitely raises ethical and moral questions.
This whole situation, it just makes you think about the system, the criminal justice system. It's supposed to be fair, impartial, weighing the evidence, all that. But at the end of the day, it's run by people. And people make mistakes, have biases, it can be manipulated. We've been talking about innocence and about Herbert potentially cutting a deal. But what if we're missing something? What if there's another explanation, something we haven't even considered?
It's always a possibility, right? Sometimes the truth really is stranger than fiction. We might be missing a piece of the puzzle, a detail we haven't uncovered yet. And that one detail, it could change everything. And let's not forget, we're going off of Darren Gee's video here.
Right.
He's done his research, but it's just one perspective.
Right, we're seeing things through his lens, with his biases and his access to information. It's like we're putting together this puzzle, but half the pieces are missing. And there's no picture on the box to even give us a clue. What about you? What really gets to you in all this? What makes you stop and think, what the? For me, it's got to be those pictures, the ones with Herbert and the cops. It just doesn't make sense with what we know,
Yeah, I get that. Those photos, they're really something. It's like they sum up this whole messed up situation. It's like you're trying to believe two completely different things at once. He's this guy linked to a terrible crime, and at the same time, he's tight with law enforcement. It just doesn't compute. I think it reminds us that we don't always have all the facts. We want a clear answer, especially with a serious case like this. But real life, it's not always black and white. There's a lot of gray.
Yeah, and that gray area, that's what makes it so hard to say for sure if Herbert's guilty or not, or even what his role really was. This whole thing, it really shows you how powerful perception is, how stories take shape in the public eye. We have bits and pieces, rumors filtered through different viewpoints, and we're left to decide what's true.
Exactly. When we don't have all the answers, we start filling in the blanks ourselves. We speculate, we listen to rumors, it's human nature. This case, it highlights how important critical thinking is. We can't just accept everything we hear at face value. We have to question, look at different sides before we form an opinion.
It's a lesson for all of us, I think. Not just with this case, but with everything. There's so much information out there, it's easy to get swept up in it. We got to be skeptical, keep an open mind.
Well, this has been quite the deep dive, wouldn't you say? We started with murder, organized crime, and ended up talking about the justice system, informants, even how easily we're influenced by what we see and hear.
It shows you just how complicated the truth can be. Even with all the questions we still have, this case gives us a glimpse into human nature, how systems can be flawed. Plus, everyone loves a good mystery. That's for sure. This isn't a story you just forget about. It sticks with you, makes you question things. You almost want to do your own digging, See if you can find the truth. If you were to keep investigating, where would you even start? Who would you talk to? What would you look for? It's a question worth talking about. Maybe someone listening will be inspired to take it further. Who knows? As for us, we'll be keeping our eyes peeled for any new developments in this case. It's definitely one for the books. But for now, keep those brains working, keep asking questions, and keep exploring. And hey, thanks for joining us on this deep dive.